You're listening to episode 115 of Financial Confidence. Financial Confidence, where we're helping you to make your money, keep your money, and grow your money so you can do the things that you're called to do. That's to build generational wealth and leave an inheritance for your children's children. I'm your host, Lynn Demons. That's Demons, no demons here. And we invite you in, guys, to go get your pen and your paper because this is going to be a juicy broadcast today. But before we get there, I want to remind you of our guiding principle for this show, which is Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We also implore that you pray over your finances so that you can be a good steward and do those things that you are called to do. So if you will, bow with me. Lord, help us to value the things in this world that are really valuable. That's our relationship with you, our lives, and our families. Help make us responsible stewards of your financial resources, and let us trust your holy word. Eternal glory is our son Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. Yes, guys, we're here for a super exciting conversation. We have a guest in the podcasting studio today, Miss Dawn Kennedy. Miss Kennedy, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for hosting me. This is amazing.
Oh, great. Well, we're so glad to have you. Guys, this is the serial entrepreneur on the other end of this line today. So make sure you have your pen and your paper ready, especially for those of you who are interested or you started your business, you just don't have those monies right. We're going to help you get that right today. Don't forget, guys, we do want to hear your money success story. So make sure you follow up with us at financialconfidence2020@gmail.com or call us and leave us a message at 470-236-8282. All right, so Ms. Dawn, I want my audience to get to know a little bit more about you. So if you will, just share what it is that you do as a serial entrepreneur, the EntreMoney Coach.
Thank you. So I'm a financial coach for small businesses, entrepreneurs, money coach, and I am also a consumer law attorney. So what I do is I help businesses get profitable and stay profitable because it's not what you make, it's what you keep, because you can have greater impact, you can give more, you can do more, and you can really expand your reach when you make money that is profit and not just income.
Ah, love it, guys. We had a conversation the other day about passions and profits, so this ties right in. So let's keep this conversation moving. We want to know a little bit more about you. So if you'll take us back a little bit, what is your relationship with money? What was that like when you were growing up? Did you have someone who influenced you in that area?
So that's a great question. I was thinking about this actually, and to be honest with you, we didn't talk about money when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Our house was very hush-hush about, it kind of wasn't our business. And so, I didn't really know much about my parents' money situation, my grandparents' money situation, or anybody's money situation when I was growing up. And I believe in a lot of ways that added to some of the money mistakes that I made when I was younger, and some of the money mistakes I made in my first real big business where we were having a lot of cash flow issues because I never knew to ask anyone.
I'm sure many of the listeners can relate. Because oftentimes this is the grown folks conversation, so you need to go, right? Stay in the child's place. So in thinking about that, then what was your first job? And do you remember what you did with that first paycheck?
So my very first job, I was 12 years old. I had a paper route. So this is going way back. I'm a little bit older than probably a lot of people, but I actually had a paper route called Newsday, and I used to deliver papers. And my first paycheck would be, I would collect my $3 a week or whatever it was from each of my people, and I would get to keep the extra. And I'm sure I used it for clothes or something like that when I was 12. But my first check kind of job, I worked for McDonald's when I was 14. So fast food was my first real kind of get a paycheck check kind of thing. But I had been working for over 2 years by then, running a paper route.
Wow, awesome. So I can definitely relate. My first job too was working at McDonald's. Didn't last long, was only there for 3 days, I think. Maybe I made it a week, right? That was it. So I can definitely relate to that McDonald's conversation. So in thinking about that, so let's move on a little bit, fast forward a little. You talked about the fact that, well, I want to go back to, you are a consumer law attorney, is that correct? As well as a financial coach. So how do those things connect together to get you to the place that you are today?
That is such a great question. It's one I do kind of get some strange looks about. But here's basically what happened was my husband and I had a consulting company. It was very successful, making multi-six figures. And my husband had a near fatal accident. He fell 18 feet off a ladder onto concrete about 2.5 years into our business. So our business had to close. And we didn't know what we didn't know about managing our money, managing our cash flow. We were making enough money to out earn our mistakes. That's the best way I can explain it. So enough money came in every month that we didn't know we were in trouble, right? But when the company just closed abruptly like that, we didn't have any emergency funds. We didn't have any reserves put aside or anything. And we didn't have any key man insurance, and there's no unemployment insurance when you're self-employed and those kinds of things. All of a sudden we had to face it. And I was a law student at the time. I finished law school, became a consumer law attorney because I almost got sued by several large banking institutions and people who didn't understand that it's like, I'm sorry, we don't have that business anymore. We don't have any money anymore. My husband had to go through rehabilitation for almost 3 years. In fact, he was in the Shepherd Center there in Atlanta for quite a while. And they didn't care. They didn't really care anymore. So, they're going to try to foreclose if they can, or, repo or, sue you. And that's just how it is. That's what they do. And I decided I wanted to help families navigate that kind of stuff. Well, as I was helping families navigate that stuff, and I was also doing student loan stuff, so people were getting sued by the Department of Education, it just really kind of messy. I realized, my gosh, there's got to be some preventative medicine here somewhere. Like, there's got to be a way to get to people before they need a lawyer. So I trained as a financial coach, right? So I became a Dave Ramsey financial coach and studied a couple of different things because I wanted to get to families and help them before they needed me as a lawyer. And as I was working with these families, a lot of them had small businesses. So it'd be one of these things where the business finances were not set. So they couldn't take a paycheck. And if you can't take a paycheck, you can't keep your hot water turned on at home. So I started doing all of this work on the business side of business and really took the time to learn, to understand, to train, to make sure that I could help you become profitable, pay yourself a paycheck, put money in an emergency reserve, make sure that you're protecting yourself at your financial milestone before we grow, right? And we did all that based on my past experiences, my education, my training, and watching a lot of families struggle where they didn't need to struggle. They just didn't know how to get organized and how to use the money to flow properly through everything. They would cash would come in, they would pay off everything, and then the cash would be gone, and then something would happen and they wouldn't have any cash, and whipping out the credit cards, right? So these are just very common stories that a lot of small businesses do, and I think it's because it's not intuitive. You don't just wake up and learn how to manage your financial money in your business, and there's not a lot of training for that. Even with the Small Business Administration and SCORE and stuff, nobody taught us how to deal with cash flow. We knew how to do a profit and loss statement, but we didn't know how to manage cash flow when people paid us late. What? Somebody paid you late? No, that's crazy. And that was, these are real issues that real people deal with all the time. And you have to make a decision, You know, am I going to pay this over here? Or am I going to, you know, eat? It happens.
Awesome, awesome. And you know what? That's a very real conversation for a lot of people. And I appreciate that you bring that to the forefront, because you brought up several terms that oftentimes small business owners don't have. Key man insurance. Somebody probably paused for the cause and said, wait a minute, what's key man insurance?
Right.
You know, having all of those different things that protect you in the event that something happens, a lot of business owners don't tend to do. So you also brought up the point about cash flow. So then how is it that you would help these families, right? If they're having these cash flow issues in their business, oftentimes they're also having those same cash flow issues in their personal lives. How did you help these clients of yours to be able to move to that next step in their own business?
So the very first thing we do, and most people really don't like me when I make them do this, but I want them to take everything off auto draft to the fullest extent possible. And I want you to get very intentional with your money. And I want us to pick dates that we're going to sit down and actually pay bills and pay ourselves. And we're going to stop swiping the debit card to make the car payment. And we're going to stop paying the electric bill as soon as it comes in full if we don't have the money to do that. And we're going to sit down and we're going to put all the cash, and we're going to pretend we're going to put the cash in a pile. And the game is to keep as much in that pile as humanly possible for as long as possible. And that means that you don't let people come in and just take money out of that pile without your permission. You know, people put things on auto draft, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's the third. The electric company came in and took their payment, so now I can't pay this. No, you are responsible for your cash flow and for keeping cash in your home and your business. And so, yes, people don't like that very much because they're like, oh, you're adding one more thing. I got to sit down and actually do this. But the reality is if you do struggle with cash flow, the only way to get a handle on it is to be in control of all of it.
Wow. So we got to pause for the cause, because you just caused some blood pressures to rise when you said take it off of auto pay, right? A lot of people, because that's what we've been taught, kind of set it and forget it. Set it so that it can be taken out, and then you don't have to worry about that later. But what I hear you saying is intentionality is the only thing that's going to help you to get to that next level. If you don't put your hands on it, put that date on it, set that time, right, for you to be able to make that payment and be intentional in each of those actions, it's less likely that you're going to get control of that cash flow. Yeah, we had to pause for that cause for a second, because that was that was a big one, because that's something that we've talked about. And for those of you who listen to the show and you follow the show, you've heard all of these different experts come on and say, put it on auto pay, right? So that you don't have to worry about it, so that it's taken care of. Now you're getting the other side of that conversation to help you to think about, okay, do I truly have control of my cash flow? All right, awesome, awesome. So you're pushing us today. You're pushing us as we move forward. So I want to ask this question then, because a lot of people have been, you know, we pay attention to the news. We've gone through this pandemic, or we're going through this pandemic. And a lot of people are looking for those stimulus paychecks. They look forward to the conversations to be able to receive that infusion, whether it's $1,200, $500, whatever it is. But oftentimes what we want business owners to learn is, how do you write your own paycheck? Is there any support that you provide to your clients to help them to be methodical or strategic in writing their own paychecks?
Absolutely. So that is one of the keys to my approach that separate me from some of the other business finance approaches. And that is that your paycheck is one of what I call the four walls. So you have four walls to protect in your business. You would protect what's inside the business before you protect what's outside. If you don't pay yourself, you cannot show up in the same way. Make the right decisions. You're not sleeping at night. There's a lot of things that are going on. And you need to be able to pay yourself a paycheck as soon as possible. And you can figure out what that amount looks like a couple of different ways. So some of my clients like to think about their own bills. What are the four walls of your bills? This is going back to Ramsey, right? Dave Ramsey's four walls. So your rent, your utilities, that kind of thing. What is that for you personally? And if we were to divide that number in half, how much would you have to take every other week in order to at least make the basic bills. The other thing I do is I have clients who make a little bit more, and we talk about a percentage of their salary. So let's say before you used to make, $40,000 a year. You would be able to break that down and decide what percentage of that do I want to take right now every other week and commit to that. So maybe you want to make, $2,000 a month as a percentage of that 40 you used to make. You would take a check every other week for $1,000 and your business would pay the taxes. So there's a little bit extra step in there about the taxes. You always want to make sure you're paying those. I had a lien on my house for $27,003 after the accident from the IRS. I don't play with them at all. So I always make sure that we include and pay those taxes. I'm pretty fanatical about the taxes. But you would go ahead and make that commitment to yourself, and you pay yourself every other week. And in fact, we actually call it entree payday. We pay ourselves every other Thursday or Friday. And my clients, they kind of laugh at me about it, but it's something that I'm really very passionate about, because had I been managing the money back then the way that I do and teach now, I would have been able to pay myself for a full quarter after the accident. I would have had the money put aside. I would have stated, this is what I make. I would have put that much aside, and I would have been able to at least draw that paycheck every other week for 3 months. That is what I wasn't able to do. And that is something that I encourage people to do now. And it starts from knowing how much you need to make.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So when we think about that then, and I'm thinking about, we've touched on the cash flow and writing your own check, and you touched a little bit on taxes. But what I want to go back to is, when you work with clients, what have you noticed as the top 3 misconceptions that small business owners have in regards to their business finances that you would like to help dispel today?
So the very first one goes back to set it and forget it, which I'm going to say that there's a point where when you're making enough that you have good margin, in other words, you're making a lot more than you need for your basic bills, setting it and forgetting it can take things off your plate. So there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about when people are starting up or within the first few years, if they don't have a lot of profit margin, the way to control the cash flow, if somebody pays you late or whatever, is to make sure you're in control of all of it. So one of the things that people, I guess the misconception is that they can just kind of let it go and they don't look at their numbers. They don't check their bank accounts. They just set it and forget it. And they believe that as long as money's going in every month and everything's coming out every month, everything is fine. And the reality is that's not the case. So there are things that we pay annually and semi-annually, and things that we set up and we forget about, and $330 comes out because we renew some subscription and we forgot about it some month, and it throws our bank account into a tizzy. So the number one misconception that you can just set it and forget it and not look at it every month, I think can cause people some short-term cash flow and money issues that they could avoid if they were just intentional and sat down and took care of this on a regular basis. The second one is knowing your numbers. So I do work with a lot of creatives also who, they don't want to make a lot of profit. They're very happy with what they do. They love that they get paid for what they do. And they don't work for profit, growth, and impact. They don't know their numbers. If you were to say to them, what does it cost you to make this? They would have no idea, or they would round up or down. And because of that, they are riding kind of a very thin line that they can keep their business afloat without knowing their numbers. And there are basic numbers that you do need to know. One of them is, of course, that overarching number of what do I need to bring in every single month. And the number of business owners that do not know what they need to bring in every single month, including their own paycheck and taxes, is a large percentage of the business owning population. They just don't know their numbers. They don't know what they need to bring in. And I think it's a misconception that we can just deal with this week over week, or, just as it comes in, it comes out, and that's okay. I think we do need to at least have this number, because when you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. So we have to have a goal. And the third misconception is you're just going to pay yourself from whatever is left over, and not create yourself a budget and make yourself a line item. And that does a couple of different things, and that leads to stress. And one thing about financial stress, especially in your business, that pours over. when we were having financial stress in our business, it was in our relationship. It was in our relationship with our children. It was in our relationship with everything. It was, the stress level was almost unbearable at times. And we can avoid that. We can avoid that by saying, this is how much we pay ourselves, and this percentage has to come in, and we have to do this. And you know what? We can always have contingency plans. So maybe I need to get a side hustle. Maybe I need to drive for Uber. I'm not saying that you don't do those things sometimes. Those are absolutely amazing opportunities for people who maybe are having a down month or haven't made what they need to make. But not having a number at all and just kind of putting yourself last, it's not good for the family. It's not good for the business. And it doesn't inspire you to get up every day and serve. A lot of people that I have worked with who were thinking about closing were closing because they felt like they couldn't make enough money. But when we really dug down and took a look, they were paying their car insurance out of the business account. So they were making the money. It just wasn't organized, and they didn't know how much they needed. So everything was done from a place of stress and panic. And I don't want that for anybody in business.
Awesome. I love that. So, and that's going to speak volumes, I'm sure, to that person who is currently living in that place, right? That place of stress and panic inside of your finances. So what do you now do? How do you now become more strategic or intentional, right, with your actions to ensure that you are not only paying yourself first, right? You heard that before on the show, but how are you now being intentional? Profit planning as well as cash flow. That's the conversation that we're having with you guys today here on Financial Confidence. Guys, don't forget, you can get freebies if you text to 312-487-3550. Our keyword is podcast FC. Get some freebies that are going to help you in both your personal and your business finances. All right, Dawn Kennedy. Yes, I do. I wanted to ask you, as we continue to have this conversation, so when we're thinking about, so how do I get started, right? This is all great information. And if I wanted to start from, let's say, from the starting line, I know that my cash flow has not been where it needs to be. I know that I haven't been profit planning appropriately. What is my best next step as a business owner?
So the very first thing is, again, to commit to taking things off of AutoPay and to sit down with that list. Now, a lot of online businesses and even some brick and mortar businesses are going to have some things that they have to put on AutoPay. I mean, there are some subscriptions for scheduling software and those kinds of things where it's, $15 a month and you have to do that. I'm talking about, you should not be making debt payments by AutoPay. You should not be paying utilities by AutoPay, those types of things. I want you to sit down and make a list and decide what day things are due. And then divide those into like 2 different days of the month and decide that that's going to happen. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to pay them on this day, and I'm going to pay them on this day. I won't be late. I'm just going to pay them on those days to make sure that I am maximizing my control over cash. And the next thing I would also say is to, make sure that this to you becomes something that is a joy, that you are really doing this in gratitude and with a grateful heart that you are having this opportunity to sit down and do this. And I know that probably sounds a little strange because people are like, well, I was really grateful it was on AutoPay. Thank you very much. I didn't have to think about it. But in reality, if you want to get a handle on these things, you have to do this, and you have to do it with a grateful heart. You have to sit down and you have to say, I'm going to make this list. I'm going to do these 2 things. I'm going to get my favorite cup of coffee or tea or, even a glass of wine for some people. And I'm going to sit down. I'm going to make this happen. And I'm going to be grateful that I've been in business 2 more weeks and I have the resources to pay these things. And when you start from that place alone, everything else can be taught. If you start from the place of, this is such a bother, I can't believe I have to do this, why am I even in business for myself? You're not going to last as long. You're not going to be able to do these things in a way that is repeatable and ongoing, and in a way that will allow you to continue to grow and have that impact and serve. And when you step up into business, you are stepping up to risk everything to bring your gifts to the entire world. You are agreeing to come up and to serve. And that means serving everyone at every level, including the people you owe money to. And when you remember that and you stay in that mindset as you get started, you can get around everything and anything that they can possibly throw at you in business. It's dynamic, but people do it all the time, and you can do it too.
Guys, I love that. She went straight to the heart of the matter. Do it with gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, the best mindset that you can possibly have as you move forward. One other thing that I hope you wrote down, I hope you caught this as she was going through, but essentially what she said to you was to analyze your business. Where are you going through? What are you currently doing? How are you doing it? And what are those things that you can take off of auto for now to be more intentional with the way that that cash is actually flowing through your business? So make sure that you are intentional with every step. Make sure that you, with that gratitude, guys, what is your goal? What's the reason? Don't forget your why as we're moving forward. That's what I heard her say. Don't forget about your why, right? Why are we going through this process? Why did you start that business anyway? At the end of the day, what I understand and recognize is I want to help build generational wealth for my children's children. So what are those things that I'm doing? I am thankful, right? What am I grateful for? So think about that for you and your business. What are those things you are grateful for? What is the larger why? Because it's bigger than just you at the end of the day. It's more than just you. Who are you serving in your business, through your business, and why are you serving? I love it. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy, for having this courageous conversation with us today. So how can our listeners find you and connect with you should they want to follow up?
So they can go to the website at any time at Entre Money Coach, and there's some resources there. And if they hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, it's Entre Money Coach. So ENTRE Money Coach, because I serve entrepreneurs.
Awesome. The Entre Money Coach, guys, you heard it here. Don't forget this courageous conversation. Go like, share, and don't forget sharing is caring. Share this information out to the masses. Also, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you hit the notification button so you'll know every week that we will be released. All right, new information will be released. We thank you guys so much for tuning in for Financial Confidence, where we're helping you to make your money, keep your money, and grow your money so you can do those things that you're called to do. That's to build generational wealth and leave an inheritance for your children's children. Any last parting words, Ms. Kennedy, before we go?
Not exact. No, I love that. That is your intro, your outro, your tagline. That is exactly why we're here, and money flows to us and through us so that we can benefit others. I love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm Lynn Demmons. That's Demmons, no demons here. DEMMONS. We thank you so much for tuning in for Financial Confidence. We'll see you next week at the same time. Until then, guys, you stay safe.